In this video, we're going to look at asymptotes. We're going to start by looking at an example. So here is the graph of a function. Now an asymptote is any line that the function approaches but never quite touches. So in this case, if you look at the y-axis running down here, the red function is getting closer to that line but doesn't quite touch it. Similarly, across the x-axis, the function approaches the line but doesn't quite touch it. If we zoom in a bit, we can see here in the second diagram that once again it's getting very close to the y-axis, but it never quite touches that. And if we kept going up and we kept zooming in, we would find that it never quite touches that y-axis. This is called an asymptote. An asymptote is any line that a function approaches but never quite reaches. So the curve here approaches the two axes, but it never quite touches them. The reason for that in this case is this is the function f of x equals 1 over x. And the reason here for it approaching the y-axis is that no matter how small the number we put in here is, we can never put 0 in. And the smaller and smaller as that gets, the y value gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, because 1 divided by a small number is a big number. But it never reaches 0 because we can't divide by 0. Similarly, in the other direction, no matter how big we make this value, we can never get the answer to be 0. That will keep going along, and we might put a million in there, and we get 1 over a million, which will be 0.000001, but it's still not 0. And we could put an even bigger number in there. We could put billions in there, but it would never quite reach 0. And that's where we get asymptotes here. So remember, an asymptote is any line that a curve approaches but never quite reaches. And it's not always the axes. So let's have a look at another example. This one here. It's any line that the curve approaches but doesn't reach. So in this example, we have the line going down here. The curve is approaching this line, and we'll get closer and closer and closer to it but never quite touch it. And we would call that line, remember, is called x equals 2. And then we also have the horizontal line going through there, which the curve once again approaches but never quite touches, and that one is y equals 3. So our asymptotes are any lines that our curve approaches but doesn't touch. Sometimes there will be a vertical and a horizontal one. Sometimes there may be just a vertical one or just a horizontal one. You have to look out for it, and when you're asked to give an asymptote, you should always give the equation of that asymptote.